No. If as long as you come to work, don't work from home. Don't leave home without.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
It was a crazy day today.
Yeah. Was it
Well,
in the air?
well, Dryden at 3 o'clock, Danby at 5 o'clock, here at 6:30. I literally went Ithaca to Danby, or Ithaca to Dryden, then to Danby, then across the county here. And I didn't know that like half a mile of 79 is shut down at Pine Tree.
I heard about that.
So
which
we're
is
live.
Oh,
It is now 6:30. Would you rise if able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? And we'll get our meeting started. I pledge allegiance
To the
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Andrew Benson.
Here.
Ruth Groff.
Here.
Bronwyn Losi.
Here.
Joseph Wetmore.
Here.
Edward Levine.
Here. So, first order of business is the public hearing, subdivision of 39 Village Circle, tax map 39.-1-38.2, Lucendi Homes LLC.
I ask that we move the discussion about canceling this to before calling for the public hearing, please.
What does that mean? Before
I mean,
calling a public hearing?
You're on opening and closing the public hearing, and I think we should have the discussion of whether we should remove the public hearing from the agenda before we call for a public hearing.
Well, this gentleman has driven an hour and a half, and he has complied by giving us maps because our software doesn't seem to like to produce big maps. I think we should have at least the courtesy of opening a public hearing, and then if we, during our discussion, if we have to go into closed session or something, we can do that. But I would like to at least, since I've only had information at today, that we want to close the public hearing at 11:30, I don't think that gives me ample time to just arbitrarily close it. I would like to at least address the public hearing, and if we want to close it, I think we ought to, or cancel it, we ought to be able to give the applicant reasons why.
Fine, we can do that during a discussion. I move that we change the agenda to put 4B before 4A.
I'll second that.
Okay, anybody else?
It seems reasonable to talk about it, whether or not we're going to have it before we open it.
Okay, how about you, Andrea?
I guess I agree.
Okay, I don't agree, but that's okay, the majority rules. So, go ahead, Joe.
We're having a public hearing, and as the motion that's been provided to us says that we're approving a plat. I have not seen this plat yet, nor is it available for the public to comment on. I don't understand how we can have a public hearing discussing a document that I haven't seen and the public hasn't had an opportunity to look at. I've discussed this with our attorney, and she agrees that it's appropriate to close this. If anybody came here for the public hearing, I'm more than happy to have them speak to us at this point, but we need a plat for people to comment upon before we can have a public hearing.
So a plat, my understanding is correct, is a survey, right?
Yeah, it contains more information than any of the maps that were given to us.
Okay. And unfortunately, our planner is not here tonight, but I find it hard to believe that he would move this forward without this. So are you recommending that we move this to next week or to next month?
If we can have a plat by then, yes. I think we should move forward on this as quickly as we can, but we can't have a meeting about a plat if we don't have one in hand to look at.
What other information are you looking besides just a survey of this?
A plat is a complete picture of what they're proposing. It has information about the size of the lot, it has dimensions on it, and it has specifically which lots are being changed so that we can clearly understand what it is that's being proposed to us. And again, I repeat, this is the advice of our attorney.
Well, okay. I think I'm going to bring this gentleman into this discussion, if that's okay, because he may be able to provide some answers. Are you okay with that?
Sure, I'm open to listening to anyone who wants to speak on this issue.
Can I just jump
Please do, come right up here.
So unfortunately, he's not here either, but I do have his written work. Can you explain this to me? This, I think, is your town planner?
I hear that. Don't understand what John, why John put this forward to us. And when I got the maps, he was on vacation, so I wasn't able to speak to him. I don't understand why he put this forward. I don't have a plat. I've been asking for one since last month. I don't have one.
Because I contacted him after, I was here virtually at the board meeting.
Mhm.
I couldn't be here personally.
Mhm.
And so I specifically asked him, because obviously I want to comply with the town. I have a buyer lined up who's ready to build about 250 units on that, which I think the town of Lansing would love, because you're going to benefit from a tax standpoint. I can't move forward, so I said, hey, what is it that the town needs, John, so that I can supply it? And this is the email I got back, and you can read it, you can read it unless you got it too.
And John's not here, so I can't ask him why he approved it. I don't have a plat in hand.
Someone needs to be held accountable, is my point. In this case, I think it should be John. So when he's here first thing Monday morning, maybe we all have a little conversation and figure out what is
What
missing
happened?
and why.
Yeah, well, I can tell you what's missing. There's no plat. I don't have a plat. Did you
Why-
send him
why-
one?
Why didn't he say that to me?
I don't know why he didn't say that
Why
to
didn't
you.
anyone from the board say that to me?
I've been asking for a map that showed
Were you
clearly,
at the last board meeting?
yes. And I
I
asked,
was too, virtually.
And
No
I-
one said anything about a plat.
I said I want a map that clearly shows what the current configuration is and what the proposed changes is. And I haven't seen one of those either.
So maps that we submitted aren't good enough.
They didn't convey that to me, and the attorney couldn't figure it out from the maps either. They weren't clear enough.
So, I'm just trying to understand this.
I'm trying to explain it to you as best I can.
What is it that's not clear about this map and this map?
It doesn't tell me which is the original configuration and what the new one is. Where are the property line changes?
Well, I was told actually back in 2017, when a road was put in, or even before then, that in itself would delineate, you know, the separation of what was what and what was then and what is now.
I've been asking for a map that clearly shows what the current configuration is and what the new one is, and you're not showing me one.
Well, I'm just telling you what the engineer gave us, so.
I'm telling you what I asked for at the last town board meeting.
And I followed up with your town planner, who I think understands what needs to be done. And he clearly doesn't, does he? So are
Something,
we now questioning his competence?
I don't know what he said. I don't know what he got. I don't know what happened. I just know that I have not gotten a plat, and that's required for me to pass a motion that says I'm approving a plat.
So I need to get in touch with John.
And send us a plat.
Monday And say, John, sorry, your name?
Joseph Wetmore.
Because I want to make sure I get this right. I mean, I don't even understand how we could have gotten to this point where we were going to have a resolution or something.
I don't either. I don't know why I have a resolution that says I'm approving a plat I don't have. I don't know why you haven't given us a plat, because you need one to file with the county anyway.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm just a stand-in, so
I-
I'm just looking at, you know, Larry Fabroni normally deals with this. I'm sure you know who Larry is.
I know Larry.
You know, I talked to him on the phone, and he said, you know, they should have everything they need to move forward on this. So, you know.
I don't know where the problem had. I've been consistently asking for a map that clearly shows what the changes are. A plat would do that. And if you look at our town law, it requires you submit a plat in order to have a change in parcel boundaries.
Well, I gotta tell you, this is my second time to Lansing. The first time was when John asked me to come down and look at something, to make sure he understood what we're looking at.
Mhm.
And I literally drove, all this way just to confirm, that's the undeveloped land, and here is the developed land, and we need to separate one parcel from the undeveloped land. That's all I know.
I understand your frustration. You were told you had everything in order, and you come here and you discover it's not. And
I'm right, so.
yeah, I understand why I'd be frustrated too.
So, and I'm just like, it's one of your own though, that told me.
Yeah, and John clearly told you that everything was set, and I don't know what happened between John, you, and us that we didn't get the maps that I asked for at the last meeting. The town code requires. I don't know why that happened, because I can't talk to John. And when I saw that we didn't have the maps I was asking for, he was already on vacation, so I couldn't speak to him about it.
I mean, John seems like a fairly confident guy.
I don't understand why this got messed up. I can't explain it to you.
So what happens now? I'm gonna talk to John, or you can talk to John, or we're both gonna talk to John.
I think we'll both talk to John, and you'll get us a plat so we can move forward on this.
Gotcha. So he's gonna, we'll get that before the next board meeting.
Mhm.
And then at the next board meeting, then what? These kinds of things.
When we get a plat in hand, I think we can schedule another public hearing and try to move forward on this.
So we should get, and by when do we need to get the plan in hand and make sure that the public hearing takes place at the next town board meeting, which is the 20th?
I don't know what the timeline is for that.
As a public hearing, we can postpone it. So he doesn't have to go through this another month.
Guy's saying we can't postpone a public hearing.
Well, if you adjourn a public hearing, you still have to renotice it for the next meeting.
Right.
The
so we just
concept of
call-
leaving a public hearing
Well, it's
open
not
to the
open.
next meeting is a myth.
Right, so,
It's
so,
a oft-repeated one, but nonetheless a
so,
myth.
so we just schedule another public hearing. That's what we're supposed to
Yeah.
do.
So basically, we can schedule another public hearing tonight for the next town board meeting on the 20th.
Yeah, assuming you can get us a plat, and we need,
Well,
how many days in advance do we need a plat in order to do this?
Right, that's what the question.
You're the one who's really upset about this, Joe.
Well, I'm trying to get what the
It's-
timeline
it's,
is.
You know, and I get this at 11:30.
How long will it take you to get us a plat?
Joe, you get this at 11:30 this morning that you want to cancel this. So, once again, a little bit more, I think it's unfair to the
You
public.
guys had everything you needed.
I understand that, and I apologize for that. Yeah, I understand. Debbie, how far in advance do you need to announce a public hearing?
That's what
Week?
A week? So get it to us. Why don't you get it to us?
How about,
Okay, so
can the rest of the
probably,
board
so
jump
probably
in on
10
this, Joe,
days.
first?
So
Well,
probably, excuse me, probably 10 days by the time you get it sent in and everything, so.
Yeah, give a margin so if there's some issue, it can get cleared up before the
So by
deadline.
September 10th at the latest.
I don't have a calendar in front of me, but sure.
The 20th is the next town board.
Correct.
Yeah, if you can get it a little earlier, just to, like, not do last
Well, Labor
minute.
Day is the 4th.
I understand, I'm just saying, the earlier the better, but it sounds like 10 days can work.
Right.
But yeah, other town board members can chime in.
Thank you. So we can reschedule the public hearing for the 20th of September. And we can investigate if the plat is, or let me rephrase this. We can communicate with the department heads to see what the concern is. It sounds like there's not a plat. And get that to the board members at least 10 days in advance? Is that reasonable?
Well, it sounds like it needs to be here before we waste any more money in scheduling another public
Yeah.
hearing.
If I can get through to John, Zach, on Monday.
He won't be in until Wednesday, just for your information.
Well, that's good to know. So if I can get through him on Wednesday, and he can, convey to me that, hey, listen, John, apparently what I gave you wasn't good enough for the board. What else, do I need to get to you? And I'm sure that I can get the specifics, either that or he has something and it wasn't distributed. I don't know. I don't understand how someone who is a professional and is in charge of the town planning board or is the town planner can tell someone that they're good to go when the reality is they're not.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we let John Zupko explain his situation to us here? In the meantime, let's get you on the schedule for the 20th of September for the public hearing. And if we don't have the information by then, we'll do what we did tonight.
That's the whole point.
I want to get you on that.
8 days ago, I contacted him, or 10 days ago, and he contacted me 8 days, 2 days later. Are we all set? Is there anything else you need? I mean, I am representing, the Sunny Homes here, and I just want to make sure that everything was there. And obviously, it's not, even though he said it. And I think therein lies the beginning of my frustration.
And you're absolutely right.
I
I'd be
can't-
frustrated in your situation
Yeah,
too.
So, and I do believe that, so if it's Wednesday, so be it. And then I guarantee you, I will do heaven and earth to make sure that this plat, or whatever's missing, gets delivered in time before the next board meeting, because I want this to move forward. And I think you do too, because someone who's wanting to build 250 units on the land, that's what he's telling me, and my hands are tied. I cannot sell him the land until this is taken care of.
Mhm.
So, I mean, so just,
So my question is this to the board, is that can we schedule a public hearing on September 20th? The last thing I want to do is all of a sudden, he comes back next week and says, well, we'll have to schedule it, and then you'll have to be here in October.
If he can get us a plat, and the plat seems reasonable, which I think it will, I'm fine with that.
Okay, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about scheduling a public hearing. Because can you schedule a public hearing just in the middle of the month?
We don't need a board resolution to schedule a
We
public
usually
hearing.
do
Can I let her talk for a minute,
We usually
please?
have a motion or resolution, but it's not required.
So what is required to put this on the agenda for a public hearing?
We can just do it by this discussion, is my understanding, and I would send the notice to the Ithaca Journal.
Okay, so
But
now
I'm not
we're-
going to do that until I make sure we have the plat or whatever we need here so that we don't waste any more money on it. And
So I think we've covered the issue of the plat. Now the issue is how to get on the third Wednesday of September, how do we get a public hearing scheduled for that day? And is the board okay with that?
She just told us.
I mean, if the board's okay with it, I'll just, once we
I'm
have.
asking a question. I mean, I'm hearing one person over here, but I'd like to hear what the majority of the board would like to do.
That sounds good.
You're okay with that?
Yeah.
We're okay with
Yeah.
that? Okay, so you're on,
okay,
all right?
so.
And there'll be some nice conversations back and forth, and hopefully we all can be on the same page, same book, same cover, same everything.
Yeah, like I said,
And I'd like to hear John's, also his situation on what happened also. I don't want to jump to conclusions on why this wasn't done. I'd like to give him ample time also, but the more important thing is we'll all find out what the information you need and get it to you quickly so that
I
you
was
can
gonna say, I
respond.
mean, that's just it. If I know exactly, because I didn't know what the flat was. Okay, if he tells me exactly verbatim, this is what we got, but here's what's missing, you should have filled in some of the blanks, so.
Mhm.
a little bit.
And feel free to contact me and talk to me if you need to.
How about you talk to the whole board, if you could just do the whole board, because I'd like to be able to be informed on this, because I wasn't informed about canceling this until like 3:30 this afternoon. I finally got Susan Brock's
Yeah.
communications, which would be nice if the whole board could see what you're concerned about also.
Yeah.
So I think that's important that the whole board sees what's going on, since we are trying to be transparent here.
Yeah, like I said, I don't understand why this is, I mean, in the end, what I do understand about it is we're trying to create a subdivision so that the one property that my late stepfather built on a bigger piece of land is separated so that we can sell that bigger piece of land.
Mhm.
It doesn't seem like that big deal.
Mhm.
So I just don't think, this shows apparently where the land, map of what we're talking about. But I guess you're asking to see what it looked like before this, I mean, is that what you really need, a map of before this and this?
I think that's a conversation that John needs to have probably with Larry
Yeah.
and you to find out. I know that you are the proxy, so
I'm
to
the
speak.
proxy.
And to be quite frank with you, I knew you before, but you've been nothing but pure class here, because you really find out people are when they're under duress.
Right.
And you've handled yourself remarkably well. I appreciate that.
Okay, well, thanks, and I'll hopefully see you guys in September.
Okay, thank you. So I think we can move on to approval of the floor.
Let me ask you a quick, do we have to cancel this public hearing by a vote, or can we just say we're canceling it? I don't know procedurally.
don't conduct it, it's a nullity. If you cancel it, it's a nullity. I think you can do either.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're following procedure.
Yeah, I mean, if it's on the agenda and you're going to cancel it and you want to follow true parliamentary procedure, then you would move to amend the agenda and cancel it.
Okay, I'll move to amend the agenda to cancel the public hearing.
I'll second.
We need a vote and everything on that?
I don't think so, you just do a consent.
I mean,
Go
we,
ahead.
we changed the agenda up here, and we didn't do any vote on this one.
Yeah, imagine that.
So I'm just asking.
I think they need to do it by consensus, just like you did before. You don't need a formal resolution, unless you want to be consistent.
Whatever is proper.
So by consensus, I guess we can just not do it.
Table until next month.
There you go.
Okay.
Shall we move on? So, privilege of the floor. We have a sign-up sheet, right?
Oh. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Okay. So, privilege of the floor. Oops, you are number 2.
Okay.
Actually, if she could go first, please.
No, because you got 3 minutes maximum, and so do you. So you'll have 3 minutes maximum, and so will you, okay? So I'm going to read you what the ground rules are here. So the public, privilege of the floor, the public shall be allowed to speak only during the public comment, privilege of the floor period of the meeting, or during public hearings, and when they have reserved or been granted time upon the agenda. Speakers must be recognized by the presiding officer and his or her designee and step to the front of the room. Speakers must give their name and state whether they are speaking as a resident, a member of the public, or for any other person or organization. Speakers must limit their remarks to 3 minutes, and comments unrelated to the subject matter of the public hearing are not allowed. Speakers may not yield any remaining time they have to another speaker. With the permission of the presiding officer, a board or committee member may interrupt a speaker for the purpose of clarification or information, or not for any other reason or debate or disagree. Such time shall not be counted against the speaker's 3-minute limit. All remarks shall be addressed to the board or committee as a body, and not to any member therefore, nor any member of the public whether present or in such public hearing or not. Speakers shall observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. Interested parties or their representatives may address the board by written communications. Written documents and evidence may be submitted as part of the record of the public hearing. Persons who exceed 3 minutes violate the rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, or good taste, or deliberately or by their behavior interfere with other persons' rights to comment or participate in the public hearing, or who deliberately or by their behavior interfere with governmental administration will be cut off, removed, or have non-recognized comments removed from the record, or any combination of the above. Before comments or statements will be excised from the record, the speaker will verbally warn if they are in violation of the rules of this public hearing. Now, Mrs. Munson, you have a timer?
I do, right here.
Okay. So the first person is, and no addresses, am I saying no addresses are needed anymore?
No.
Okay.
That's correct.
Is John Dennis. John?
Thank you. I've distributed some written comments, so I think I'll start. I'm here as a representative of CLEAN, Cuba Lake Environmental Action Now. I'm also a resident of the village of Lansing for maybe 24 years, so I do pay some taxes to the town. So I would like to make the point that CLEAN is not opposed to salt mining. This is the Hampton Corner salt mine. Just a couple of details. They own most of this land. There are no lakes underneath it. And here it says 3,000-foot barrier pillar. And that's a key point because it means there's 3,000 feet of salt, many hundreds of feet thick, preventing it from having access to the flooded Retzoff mine, which flooded in 1994. When that mine down here in red in Vernon Shale flooded, a rubble chimney went all the way to the surface. And there was no, Genesee River was nearby, but it was more like a cornfield. Nothing bad happened when it got to the surface. On the other hand, if there is a lake above that rubble chimney, it establishes an immediate hydraulic connection between the lake. And as this mine closes over time, the brine, supersaturated brine, has to go somewhere. In the case of the Retzoff mine, it went up to this freshwater aquifer, contaminated it. Axo Nobel, the owner, said after a while of pumping, they said, you know, we can't afford to do this anymore. We're gonna pay for the broken aquifer. They paid $20 million. They went back to Holland, and Cargill actually bought 2 of their other mines. So I'm just saying bad things can happen when a salt mine collapses. And it isn't just the volume of saturated brine that's in that flooded mine, because there can be new water that goes in and it becomes salinized and continues to come up. That's happening over in the Tully Valley. This, again, just a few seconds, this is a 2005 map. Portland Point is here, Myers Point is here. Cargill expected to mine several thousand acres of salt rights south of Myers Point. They just got down to the Ithaca Yacht Club. They could never get across because, as Bill Capel, the USGS geologist, said, John, salt miners heard noises that miners never like to hear. So, by contrast, Cargill, sorry, this is not the map I had intended. Let's pull another one back. Oh, I'll just bring this one back. Cargill has about 2,000 acres of salt rights under land, and we've heard that they are applying to the DEC for permission to begin mining that. So under Lake Watch, anything south of Gulf Creek. I'll mention a little bit about anomalies. Anomalies A through E were identified. Is that 3 minutes?
Yes.
Is there any warning?
That's
it.
3 minutes.
Sorry.
That's 3 minutes. Okay, so I will be here if there are any questions later. Thanks so much.
Thank you for the sheet.
privilege. What's that?
Thank you for the sheet, and it will be part of our public record, okay?
Okay, good.
Okay?
Thanks.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Thank you.
Ms. McLeod?
Hi, good morning.
Can I ask you? You know, you're fine, I'm sorry. I'm not even going to try, I don't want to insult you by trying to pronounce your first name. It looks beautiful, though. What is it?
Serena.
Serena? Please, have a seat.
Thank you. So I'm here also, I'm a steering committee member of CLEAN. I think you're probably fully aware of the environmental issues. You're probably also aware of the OGS, the fact that the New York State leases the under the lake bed. And you may be aware that there is some indication that Cargill is planning to sell, and generally in that kind of a transaction, leases and even the underlying environmental analysis are transferable. So as I just want to have that in your awareness as this is unfolding, that the part of the due diligence, I think, in that transaction for the town would be to ensure that the environmental bond, which last we know is 3.5 million, which I don't think goes very far in environmental cleanup these days. I think that's a part of the transaction that, so Cargill would get their bond back. If there's a new company, they would be placing some kind of bond that would be set, I'm assuming, by the OGS and the DEC. And I think the town would want to weigh in to make sure that that bond is sufficient. That's all I had to say.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are the two people I have. Those are the two. Is that you, Mrs. Vaughn?
No.
You got a new one going. Those are the two people they have signed. Does anybody else want to exercise the privilege of the floor? Okay. How about we move on now? So we'll send this back. And Mrs. Munson, do you have one of these sheets for the record also?
Yes, from Mr.
From
Dennis.
Mr. Dennis?
Yes, I do.
Okay, this here. Now we're down to 7 already. Ooh la la. Department reports? Community library?
Christine has sent in her report.
Okay.
So did Rich of the Lansing Youth Services.
No, he didn't
He
send.
didn't.
Or I didn't get one,
Oh,
if you sent it.
I
didn't
think
receive
you're
it.
right. He must be on vacation.
There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? You all right? A lot going on at the library.
Yeah. Good programs for the summer.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. If nothing else, let's see. Youth services, moving down to county, moving down to highway. Right, is this everybody? Mr. Mosley? What could you be up to nowadays? Nothing? Not much.
Good evening, everybody. There's no report, because I didn't do one.
Okay.
You've been busy too.
So, straight to the point, more of the same, road maintenance, road improvements, water maintenance, water main repair down on East Shore Drive next to the rink. That was last Saturday. Road improvements would be Ross Road, resurface that with stone oil. In between the rains, road maintenance, potholes, repairs, Doug Road is on our list. Intermunicipal work, working with State DOT down here at the Central Fire Station, help them install and enclose drainage in front of the fire station. We just paved that in today, hence I'm a little late, but any questions? One more thing to add, I was out of the office all of today actually, so I didn't get to any emails, sorry Guy. Dave Herrick as well. I will have some information to share with the board. I'll probably just do it through an email on 2 Auburn Road.
I'm sorry?
2 Auburn Road.
Okay.
2 Auburn Road, right. And just some more decision-making on really what we want to do there, right? It's more than just the home. There's septic there, there's some other things. So I'll share that all with you tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, I just haven't read through it completely myself.
You haven't forgot about it.
Yeah.
Because you've had other things also going on at the same time. That doesn't mean it's less important, right?
Correct. It's
It
there.
seems as though everybody who had a backhoe and a dump truck was out today full force, isn't it?
Ooh.
Especially in downtown Ithaca. I don't know how you did that all those years, Joe. You know. Anyways, on that note, anything else for Mr. Mosley?
Thanks.
Are you working with the county at all on Brickyard Road?
Not yet. They haven't asked yet, but they might owe me at this point for Lower Asbury and a couple other things. I think the last time we talked, but I'm happy to.
They're doing the ditches there now,
Yeah.
and I see they're starting to move the paving equipment over there, so it's going to get started soon.
Yeah. Warren Road, section of Asbury from North Trip Hammer to Schofield Road will get done as well.
You got the machine?
Yeah. So.
It's quite an invention. If anybody ever had the chance to see that in action, not getting in their way, by the way, but please, you did that with Ludlow Road.
Yeah.
You just milled it right up and put it right back on, and it's just a phenomenal machine.
Great value back, those millings.
Yeah.
They've increased. Just within the year, we gained $2 a ton that they'll pay us for them, so it's a good deal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, good. All right, let's move on. Let's see, what was it, 45 minutes?
Sure, never again.
Never again, never again. I wasn't at the meeting, was I?
No.
Never again.
That's why she's running it.
This is a coincidence. Okay, Park and Rec. Look at you.
Parks and Rec, yeah.
It's soccer season, apparently.
It is soccer season. Great program last week here, 300 kids Probably one of our biggest programs and ran very smoothly other than the weather. So very happy about that. Probably the first week of August, probably our largest crowd in the park ever, I would say roughly. We estimate 4,000 people for destination on August 3rd. So everything's going very well. Very nice celebration for Gus Isaac last Saturday, 100th birthday party for a World War II vet in Lansing. So
I've never seen anything like that.
it was great.
I've never seen anything like that from that personal level.
Yeah, it was very.
I mean, from all facets. Remarkable history this gentleman has.
Yes, yeah. If anybody hasn't read his story, please look it up. It is pretty fascinating. That's all I'm going to share.
Any questions for our rec?
No, I just want to say that it's really exciting to see our rec program, being over capacity at the moment. That's just, the larger community saying we've got a really good program and they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's nice. And like I said earlier before the meeting, unfortunately, some of our programs do have a wait list because we can't take every kid, but we certainly do our best to try to get every kid involved in something.
Mm-hmm. Of course, it makes our budget look weird because you're over budget on all these items because you have more kids than we budgeted for, and that's a
true.
good thing.
Yeah,
'cause-
that's a good thing.
Well, I heard rave reviews about the soccer camp.
Oh, good.
From many kids, so.
Excellent. Good to know.
Yeah.
While you're here, I'm gonna, and this is a conversation, not a criticism, but this is something that the board needs to try to do a little better job on, including myself, is that when Patrick sends out what should I do about stuff, or somebody else sends out what should I do about stuff with an email, there should be a response at a fairly decent time, reasonable time, and not wait to the town board. I mean, he sent out three items, right? The park.
Yeah,
the
just
park,
a
there's like 3 items.
clarification
And at
and,
some point, we gotta either fish or cut bait on this park thing, amongst others. But and I'll use you as an example. Like I said, I'm not calling out the board on this, but when you get information and you go, it's not in my hands, it's up to the town board, and you say, town board, what do you think? And you get crickets. We need to do a better job to respond quickly, and I say we, to you, so you can get back to them and say, you know what, this is what the board has decided, or not, with consensus. Now, there's some things that may not be able to do through an email from the board, but there's other things that need to be addressed as quickly as possible so you can move on.
true.
And it was, let's see, so when I responded, there was the park.
The park grant we have kind of floating, I mean, we do have to make a decision. The state has gotten back to me a couple times now, so we do have to have some sort of decision from the board on that one, whether it's yay or nay. It just, we do need to make a decision.
I thought we did.
I thought we did too. I thought we said nay.
Well, you had a couple, so we didn't have a formal decision because you had those questions.
So let's have a formal decision.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do this on the 20th of September, right? So
Yeah.
let's give him some clarity on this, and, because we were talking, okay, you guys talk first. I don't want to try to lobby here, but I think, I'll do a lead-in question. Did we decide what to do with the park? And the answer was, Joe, what did you think the answer was?
I thought we decided not to.
Okay, and Ruth, did you decide?
I thought that was, because there were so many other stipulations that went along with it. That
Right,
it wasn't
there
gonna make it
is,
feasible.
yes.
So, yeah, I thought we.
Andra? Okay, so
There's one.
there's one. Okay, now we're doing box checking tonight. Okay, what's the
So
second one?
could you just, I heard decided not to. I'm not sure what that really means as far as putting
All right.
something in the
Would
minutes.
someone like to entertain a motion that we, okay, here comes the verbiage.
Let's just take it from Pat's email.
Well, I don't know if we need a motion. I just need to know what you're talking about. You
This is
said
the
park-
Mars Park grant.
This is the CFA
That you
grant.
don't want to accept it, is that
Correct.
what you're saying?
Right.
Right.
Okay, that's, okay.
Yeah, we don't need a.
Number 2.
I don't have my notes.
I
in front of me.
have the paper right in front of me.
Go ahead.
Perfect.
Number 2 was,
Thank you,
where
Debbie.
do we stand with having Guy reach out to the DEC on either renewing the Salt Point
Yes.
cooperation agreement or asking them about a possible purchase? That was number 2.
I'm gonna go this way this time. Are we okay with Guy reaching out to them to see what the options are, Brahma?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. I'm being courteous, even though I got 3 votes, I'm gonna be courteous here, so you guys are okay with that, right?
I'm
Okay,
absolutely.
So am I. Okay, so that's a yes. Number 3, for Carol Merrill standing,
Number 3,
is,
Where do we stand with the Jonas Falls easement license, Jack Young's property
That,
only?
that one I think will be clarified maybe later, but
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
we do have more clarification on that one today, thanks to Guy and Ruth.
All right, so should we wait on that one?
Yes.
Or do we segue into that right now with Guy and Ruth?
Well, I think we already made the decision as a board where we want to go. It just needs to move forward, and we found out what steps that needs to
Great.
take today, so we're good.
All right, so let me ask this question then.
That box is already checked before we even got here.
Let's check with Guy to see if he's agreeing that's been checked. Do you agree that you've got direction on where to go with that?
I have received an answer from Jack Young. I don't know what the town board wants to do. It seems that there has been confusion created by multiple people driving the bus. And when you're dealing with something like an easement that has to be negotiated and then written, and then not only work for both the donor and the donee, but also serve a broader purpose of advancing a future trail that you hope will exist, there's a lot of pieces to it. So there's the parking area, but part of the parking area is also the stormwater access for the subdivision. There's kiosk, there's garbage, there's maintenance, there's the overlook area, there's the area where you need to bring in work to make the future connection. All I need to know, despite the fact that there are a number of issues legally and otherwise that would need to be attended to when negotiating and drafting an easement of this nature, is who does the town want to drive that negotiation and come to final terms so then the easement can be drafted. That's all I need to know, because I'm not placing blame anywhere, but I feel like the ping pong ball and everyone's got a paddle but me.
Is there also a shared parking lot with this?
Well, it shouldn't be shared because that would be the access to the stormwater. Certainly, we wouldn't want people parking on the access point for the stormwater, because if you ever had an emergency or the pond was flooding, how would we get in there? I mean, I guess we got some pretty big equipment. We could just lift up a car, toss it over the gorge and go to our pond, right? But when you're mixing governmental uses and you know, or even shared management of a space, you're also talking about, at some point, you're gonna have a no parking area. For instance, you wouldn't want people driving up the trail and parking next to the gorge. There's a few things that would probably need to be attended to. At one point, there was a suggestion of just have all the parking out near the street, but then the question was, well, that's one of the things the neighbors have been complaining about. Then there was, let's have the kiosk in the parking lot. Well, does that really serve the purpose? Shouldn't it be more like towards the gorge so people know what they're looking at? I don't know, but it seems to me that those questions are not getting answered, and we are not getting an easement drafted. But part of that is we're still waiting for the survey.
And I was told that the survey was done this week, so you should be getting this.
I was told the field work was done this week, but the survey's not yet completed. There's a difference between completion of field work and drawing and certification and verification. It could be done now. I mean, once the field work's done, it usually only takes a day or two.
Can I also address the impact of the homeowners next to that?
Well, I think that goes to the overlook and the parking and some of the, and the garbage cans and some of the other issues that you want to, you should be addressing if you ever wish to continue down towards the bottom of the falls.
But it also is, you know, you also have the property rights of the people next to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll share this with you, by the way. On Fiddler's Ridge, where I live, there was multiple cars parked all over. Mikey had to put some signs up. There is on the website, come to Fiddler's Ridge or something along those lines, and you can park there. If that is correct, whoever is in charge of that, will you remove that? Will you change that? Or, I'm not looking at you, Joe, to do it. I'm simply saying that someone reached out to somebody I know, say, isn't it wonderful? You can drive down to Fiddler's Ridge and park there. And so he has two signs there. I have a mosaic of all the license plates. I love it. I'm going to eventually do a whole mosaic perhaps on my wall. And I told them, I said, what they do is where you park there, they'll drive past it, so they're off it. So where's that turnaround? They don't realize that, God forbid, if there's a fire, there's no place for the fire trucks to turn around, then whose problem is that? When somebody's house burns down. And this puts a black eye to the people who want to do these things. And I know that their heart's in the right place, but there's certain places for that whole area, they park on top of Ridge Road and they walk down. I understand they want to take that shortcut, but that's not allowed. Just like on Nut Ridge, they got to put a whole bunch of signs there because they were driving. Be happy to drive through. I mean, I'll show you a picture if you like. But Mikey's, you were down there and you saw how many there one day? 18, 20 cars?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's an issue.
Do we need to put a no parking area there to solve it?
They're already there. What they do, okay, so at the turnaround, okay, it's in, just imagine it's like an L, okay? At the turnaround, you've got the sign there. They drive past that into the field above it. They're not supposed to be there.
And
I'll show you the pictures.
yeah, I'm working on it.
I understand that.
We'll address it.
And I'm not-
It's unfortunate. I apologize to talk.
No, don't. And I understand the enthusiasm. I understand, and I love volunteers. But like with Nut Ridge, when they had to put the signs up, no parking, no parking, no parking, no parking, it's the same type of thing. You can't park there. And I warned people, I said, look, I'll be courteous, but you tell your friends you can't do this, and I'll warn you. But at some point, the next step is to call the tow truck. Call the sheriff. Here it is. And I don't want to be that guy, but if they don't listen to, I mean, the rules apply to everybody, whether you like them or not. And it's a common courtesy. Because even though people love the trails, you're going to get a bad reputation if you're not careful. Especially with the Finger Lakes Land Trust, you're going to get a bad reputation if you're not careful. Because I'm not that person yet. But I'm seeing that in other areas where people are saying they're all over the place here. So, like on Nut Ridge, you had to put signs up there. Did you not, Mike?
Yeah, we had some no parking signs up. In Ludlow was in a
Ludlow.
bigger issue. You know, there's concerns there in Ludlow about deep ditches and encroaching on the road, so we couldn't, emergency vehicle couldn't get down through, we couldn't get down through. You have every day, you have garbage trucks trying to get through. There's bigger equipment, there's turnarounds there for a reason. We'll address it. It's unfortunately, with a couple other things on my plate, 2 Auburn Road being one, 104 Auburn Road being another one, that will be thrown on my list.
Well, how about where that you fall on the sword? How about the people that, like the Trails Committee, other people, you just spread the word that there's certain places you're allowed to park, certain places you're not allowed to park, and respect the privacy of other people? Because Jonas Falls, I'm concerned about the people next door. What happens to them?
Historically, my understanding is it's very rare for there to even be more than 4 cars there. But once you make it official and put in a parking lot, who knows, right? So.
And I understand,
So,
Which,
Go ahead.
I don't want to talk over you either, but there already is an established parking lot there from a previous easement. I don't know if you know that.
On Ridge Road.
No, this is for Jonas Falls we're talking about.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's just the
let's-
roadside gravel. That
Correct.
whole thing, right? You can
Correct.
have 3 or 4 cars.
Yes.
So, my understanding is the business before the board is figuring out who's negotiating this easement.
Yes.
Writing it. Is that,
And that's fine.
Correct.
And that's fine. But these other things,
Right.
the other things need to be said at some point. I'll let the powers to be filter out to get the word out that we all work together here when we talk about easements.
And I think the ones you're talking about are all established through the Finger Lakes Land Trust, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Yeah. So really, it's not up to this department or his department. It really should be.
I'm not saying.
It should be up to the land
But
trust,
bigger pic-
honestly.
But the bigger picture is, when you're talking about easements and parking, that you want to have respect for other people
Right,
that are
right.
next door to them.
Yes, yeah.
Because what if you get 20 or 30 cars there and they're all, and we had that same thing in Lovellville. We saw that concern. And I think, has that been addressed?
I think it's worked out really well. I've been watching the cars parking,
Yeah, I don't-
and there's now space to get down the road that there wasn't before.
I have had 0 complaints this summer from Ludlow.
nice.
I've been all positive from the taxpayers I know there, it seems very good, so.
Just, and like I said before, a lot of it is just awareness. That's it. So let's go back to this, because I know, thank you, Brahman. So where are we going with Guy in this whole discussion, now that we've checked a lot of boxes that we
Right.
perhaps didn't
So-
expect?
Can Ruth and Pat work with Guy on this easement? I know they know more about the
Absolutely.
issues there on the Trails Committee and all that.
Is that what the board wants?
That's what I'm asking.
Well, does somebody want to,
Well, let me ask Guy, is that too many people to work with?
It's completely up to you. If you want to create a de facto committee to negotiate an easement, go ahead.
I don't think we get a lot of yeses on that one. So let's circle back to what you.
Well, the developer has a representative here. Maybe they have an idea.
Yeah.
Not that I want to put you on the spot, Jessica.
But we're all staring
But,
now.
I mean, are you and Jack and your engineer and your attorney planning on working on this easement, or
Yeah, good point.
We were originally told that the town was interested in the trail. And I mean, the way I look at it, there's three pieces to that. There's the trail itself, which has a question of how wide do you want? There's a parking area for people to park in, you know, how many cars do you expect to be there? How big do you want parking area to be? And then at the end of our property, there's, you know, we're going to make a larger section that would be suitable for like a raised overlook, so you can view the falls in case the trail cannot continue to farther. I was asked to kind of think about how to do all that, but I don't know what the town wants. You know, we're trying to give the town something that they want, and I'm really not sure what they want, or what you want. I mean, we're not offering to give, you know, 50 acres to the town. You know, there is a limit to it, but where does that line get drawn? I don't know how much you need. You know, we're certainly willing to, I did send Guy a map earlier today that showed kind of what I thought would work for a parking area. And I don't know that we'd be able to make that particular area any larger than what I sent. Just because we start encroaching on other things we're doing.
So we've had people come in here before, the residents next door, and share their concern about this discussion a few times ago. And you've been very gracious and generous to offer certain land. My concern, if it's not enough, will the overflow go onto their properties? And I'm not asking you for that question. I'm simply saying is that, and you saying.
Well, I don't think so. The people that were complaining are on the downhill side. The overflow would be on the uphill side. But I don't know. All I know is if you make something foolproof, nature's response is to create a better fool.
You can always put a sign up that says maximum 4 cars.
Ruth, what are your thoughts on who should spearhead this and negotiate this?
Well, I like Joe's idea of Patrick and I. There's still a lot of back history that I need to get caught up on. Like, I don't know what the original easement was. I would like to know what that, or license, whatever it was.
Yeah, it wasn't
You know, what it
Right.
was, before I can even really speak to that.
Okay.
There are a lot of conversations going on around this. I spent about an hour yesterday with Ramona Cornell, who was one of the neighbors, talking to her about, you know, what, the fact that we were going to be talking about this tonight, so she wasn't caught off guard that, you know, we're having a conversation. I want to keep her in the loop. So at this point, I think it would be advisable for Patrick and I and Guy and the Youngs or their attorney to discuss it.
I'm personally happy with that, having you two work together and with Guy's legal counsel to make the next step forward.
But just want to check, Pat, are you okay with that?
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah, I mean, we've already spent some considerable amount of money. Obviously, we had the one young lady from Cornell Design Group do a plan, and she's still working on some planning in that. So, I mean, we have spent money here. And you've all agreed at one board meeting to pursue this.
I'm asking if you're.
No, we're just wondering who should be in charge, like who should be the negotiator.
Yeah, I love one
Question
more
before.
thing on my plate, but
Aren't you the chair of the Trails Committee?
I am, yeah.
So heavy is the crown.
That's right, yeah. So
We look forward to the positive results.
by default.
Yes, through your leadership. So are we in agreement? Well, okay, so let's circle back. I'll be bronze for a second, which is extremely difficult. Yeah, I can't feel the shoes. The guidance here from the town board,
Yeah.
number 3.
So the guidance is, and I know guys are gonna ask this, do we want the Young's attorney to draft the easement, or do we want Guy Crow to draft the easement?
it's been my experience in the past to have the town attorney be able to do the easements as best as possible, and then have perhaps the young review them and everything and see if that's appropriate.
I figured it.
Is everyone in agreement with that?
Are you good with that, guy?
Sure, I can be the ping pong ball again. It's the fourth time that answer's changed in less than 2 days. Because the last we left it at Randy was gonna draft it, and I was gonna coordinate and meet him in his office and work on it with him. So we can shift gears. I'm sure they'd be happy to let the town spend more money than the developer. That's
All
fine.
right, let's just do a pause here then. How about we go back to the original and let Mr. Marcos draft it? And have Guy look at it.
I don't think there was an original easement. It was a license, so it was a different type of document.
It wasn't even close to an easement. It's not even,
There's no original to go back to.
well, there are some pieces in it that would be useful, like whereas. But if you know, I've said this 1,000 times, easements are not plug-and-play documents. They're not forms. They're permanent. They always and forever affect the title, and they can have very significant impact. So you can't take something that you think is an easement and you don't understand what it is and go into a completely alien environment and plug it in and say, there, it's done. For instance, having a sewer easement for your water line will give you nothing. So we're talking about creating something completely new, because what it does, why it exists, and its permanency are what distinguish it from a mere license. So what would make sense to me, and only to me, is that we identify on some kind of map what the town thinks it needs minimally, due respect to the landowner's gift and the impact taking more land than is necessary could have, even though there are areas where maybe you'd want more parking. I don't know. And if that map is marked up so you can actually see how it relates to the survey that is being prepared to map out the trail, and the developer and the town end up agreeing on this is where the parking is, this is where the trail is, then it's just a simple thing for the surveyor to go back, draw a couple more lines, and then create the easement. And there will be other questions that will arise, but once you know what the purpose is, and whether there's any additional temporary rights when you engage in construction, most of what can be done for a trail right-of-way, assuming they'll agree to a right-of-way or trail easement, is pretty generic. I would think the developer's going to be very interested in land restoration after disturbance and things like that. And the town's going to be very interested in being able to get whatever they need down that easement to continue in the future should you get those rights. And, you know, bringing equipment into a slope like that, the amount of space you need to actually safely work with equipment on a steep slope, those are two purposes that are at complete odds with each other. You need a lot of distance to make a landing platform to operate equipment on slopes like that. So there are pieces of this as we move forward that will be difficult that we should be thinking about now. If you need to get a way to haul dirt out or to de-water soil that you have, you're going to need at least some kind of ability to get a vehicle down there. And maybe a 5-foot trail would never let you do that. But maybe a 30-foot trail is too much. So I think the town should probably be trying to figure out what does it want and marking it on a map, and what is the infrastructure it foresees. And then you can start fleshing out the easement.
Aren't we getting a report from this intern in a matter of weeks?
Yes.
I have
You have
some
it?
of it already.
I think that's going to help us answer the questions you're asking.
So, yeah, so before we draft an easement, we should have the intern's report so we can do some planning. I would think John would be in the mix.
Yes.
Pat would be in the mix. And we'd need the survey from the developer. And those would be the two key pieces that would drive whatever was to be negotiated in terms of rights and use. Okay, I agree with that.
So, we have some sort of plan moving forward now?
Check.
$40. We have clarity. Scott,
Yes.
we have clarity,
You good with all that?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Yes.
and the board's okay with that? Good.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to talk about?
Not tonight.
What's the next season coming up?
What's that?
What's the next season coming up?
We're into football and, well, our soccer program now, not camp, but program. So,
Okay.
fall sports.
I do have one question for you,
Yes.
and this happens a lot. The emergency repairs for the playground,
Yes, they are completed.
what were they?
Well, so we were short on mulch, and I don't know if any of you noticed, but we have to have what's called an engineered wood fiber. It's essentially a mulch that gets tumbled in a tumbler and has no certified with no metal in it. That was one. Some of the belting that kids kind of jump and run across was weathered and cracking, and the other one was, cables, sorry. There was 3 sets of cables that the string or nylon portion actually came off, and the metal inside, the braided metal wire inside was exposed and framed.
This is the new playground,
Correct.
not the old one.
Well, newish. I think we're going on 13 years, but yeah.
Has it been that
Newer.
long?
Yeah. Might be 14.
That was a fun project.
So, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Pat? We're bouncing around here, but we seem to be getting stuff done, so I guess it's not so crazy. Thank you. Director of Planning, you have John's report. What else? We have the town clerk's report.
Mine's in the packet, it's all set,
Thank you, okay. Just
unless
wanted-
anyone has questions.
Just want to give you an opportunity. None? Okay, let's move on to consent agenda. Mrs. Munson, you have the helm.
Okay, there's just three items in there. Somebody reads the titles, we do the
Okay.
first, the second, vote, and we're done.
All right, Joe, you want to do A?
Motion to close Consolidated Water District Number 5, Peruville Road project.
Ruth, B, please.
D, resolution to relevy yearly water and sewer charges on the 2024 town and county tax bills.
Andra?
Resolution authorizing bid documents for building custodial services.
Anybody want to move it? All
We
right.
need a first and a second.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Joe moves it, Ruth seconds. No, there's no discussion. It's
No,
consent.
no. Andrew Benson,
Yes.
Ruth Groff,
Yes.
Bronwyn Losi,
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore,
Yes.
Edward Levine.
Yes. Item 9, resolution urging Governor Hochul to veto pending legislation that would impact the timing of local elections.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
What page are we on? I'm in the middle
On
of...
page 9. No, we're on page 47.
Thank you.
Section 9.
I was trying to find my way through all the bid contract stuff.
Long one.
Section 9, item A. Page 47.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson.
Yes.
Ruth Groff.
Yes.
Bronwyn Losi.
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore.
Yes.
Edward Levine.
Yes. B, 9B, resolution approving audit and budget modifications and supervisory report.
Let me just pause for a moment so I can look this over, because I just got this tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Want to take a 5-minute break?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. You want to turn off the,
I just leave it running.
okay. Is that okay, everybody else leave running? I will ask Patrick one thing while they're all reading this. Do you foresee any other, well, we've seen this more than once, and it's bound to happen again, the emergency playground. And I'm kind of teasing you a little bit here with the budget. To say, do you need to have a little reserve or a fund or something in there for playground repairs?
It's tough because the cable portion of that, like, those weren't planned. I don't know if someone vandalized it or if it simply wore out. I couldn't really tell. It almost looked like it was cut. So that's something that really, the belting stuff, that was gonna be in the budget for 2024 anyway. So was the mulch, but we did get inspected and we failed the inspection. So we had to correct those actions.
So we just prepaid that one, basically. That was just funny. So I look forward to that certain amount being less in your budget then, right?
Unfortunately, there's a lot of things that need maintenance with Parks and Recreation, and some of those things, they aren't cheap.
I look forward to that discussion.
For instance, the basketball court out here is in need of repair. I don't know if I'll vote in time for the budget. Our budget, they're doing 10 days or a week or whatever it is. So I might have to come back to you and just add that into my budget after the fact.
You know approximately how much that is?
I honestly, I don't want to really guess. I mean,
Can you send us an email?
I'll park it at 30,000, but I don't know.
I guess it's good we're all sitting down. Okay.
Yes.
Well, when you do get like an accurate number.
Yes,
I'm not looking for a penny, but.
Yeah, that's.
Okay. Are we talking enough?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
I have a question. From B688 to B8020, from Parks Grant to Conservation Advisory Council.
So is our break over?
Yes.
I think first of all, before we discuss that, we probably have to make a motion in a second, right?
Oh,
Yep.
sorry.
I'll move it.
Second.
On with seconds this time. That's a shocker. I haven't lost your edge, Andra.
Hey, Guy, we're back in session.
So anyways, now you have a question.
Yes, I had a question, Mary Ellen. The item down there from Parks Grant to Conservation Advisory Council,
Yeah,
and what is that?
so last year, beginning of last year, we got a Parks grant, $58,000 for open index, and it's sitting there in a fund.
Yeah.
And when we get the bills for open index, we have to move it from that new fund, it's kind of like the fund balance.
Right.
And move it from that grant
Okay.
over to the CAC, because that's where it can be paid out of.
Okay.
That's all that is.
Okay. All right.
There's
Did you know
about $25,000 left in that grant.
how much?
After that, about 25,000.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. So I'll send that accounting to Carrie when it's all said and done.
Sounds good. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So that's from the Parks Foundation grant.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we talk about parks, and we're talking about parks. Okay. Any other questions on the budget mods? If not, Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson,
Yes.
Ruth Groff,
Yes.
Bronwyn Losi,
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore.
Yes.
Edward Levine.
Yes. Board member reports, Andra?
I already commented on the library.
Okay.
Like I said, Rich, our board, was be on vacation.
So we're all good?
Yep, we're good.
Ruth?
Are you ready? Well, first of all, I did not attend the Conservation Advisory Council meeting this month because I was on vacation, but I did include the minutes from the meeting, so everybody has a copy of those. And you may also notice that your mailboxes were full with information about Parks, Recreation, and Trails Committee. We had the original master document. And we also had in there the final report from the Cornell Design Connect, which was this document.
Okay.
So this is what that team did.
Okay.
That was here this spring, early summer. So that's there for you. We had them work on just the area from, say, Myers Park up to Town Center and then down to the rink, rather than doing the entire thing, because they didn't have enough time in their school year to do that. So that's all this one is including. And I think they did a really good job. If you look through it, they considered, you know, a lot of things, the ADA considerations, environmental considerations, traffic considerations. They pretty much did the whole gambit. And there was another item in your box. It was just 2 pages, because I felt like it was something that maybe should have been included in this packet, but it was what we would do for trail buffers. In other words, what items are available out there to protect the community from the trail if there are houses along the way. So that's what this other item was just really an addendum to this package
You're talking about
here.
visual buffers, things of that nature. I mean, would this be putting up fences for them, that type of thing, as a buffer?
Right, it would be like fences or planted barriers, like on the Dryden Trail, they have just hedgerows all the way down. And they're just a variety of different types of buffers, and they neglected to put that in this package, so I had that included in this. And
Sometimes you're buffering people from visual, sometimes you're trying to keep people from trespassing, and so there's
Exactly.
different kinds of buffers depending on what the need is.
So of the many trails I've been on outside New York State, when they build communities, a lot of times first down there, they don't have, especially in the south, they don't have to worry about the snow so much. But when they develop these areas, they actually will put a fence up along it. But they also say, and this is what they say down there, residents only, their areas for walking. But in other areas, they'll do the fences along there. That type of thing, so there's a physical barrier there, because there are some people that are concerned when you're walking in our backyard, will you keep walking into our yard? Or will you be casing our house, like one of my neighbors said, they were casing their house the other day, as they were walking along. I'm not throwing stones, I'm simply saying that a lot of times these physical barriers are there not because they're anti-trails, but they're pro-protection.
that's correct.
Right? Once again, we want to make sure everyone's safe. The ones that, it's like anything else. Speed limits, the ones that are going to abide by the speed law, we don't worry about those people, right? It's the 5% that don't. This is the same thing here.
Anyway, so that's why this was in your mailbox. And then we also, as we were talking about Jonas Falls, I have just this one copy. She sent it in a format that would have to be printed out big, and I didn't have it. So I can pass this around if you want to look at it. It's very preliminary.
You make a copy of it, just put it in my mailbox?
I will do that. It's just
When you
really
have them all.
small. It's small. I'm going to see if we can get it larger so it'll be easier.
Okay. Whenever it's appropriate.
Yeah, when you can, I'd love to have a copy of that. Thank you.
But, so this, and like I said, it's very preliminary, it's not finalized yet, that's where she is with it.
It'll be helpful.
Yeah. But one of the things I wanted to bring up, they also had this map, I think this was, I call this the place map, because it's the size of the place map. I thought it was kind of cool. Shows the trails that they have with renderings of what it might look like.
Very good.
And the reason I had included our master plan from April 22 is because we had discussions about Jonas Falls, and I did want to point out that it is on page 73 of that. I guess I could have printed just the one page, but on page 73 it does mention Jonas Falls in that as major node 7, a western extension of the trail system going through there, and it specifically points out Jonas Falls. So it is on our radar, has been on the radar apparently for years, but that is in there. So what else did I need on parks?
Did our discussion tonight change some of this parks thing with
Well, the thing
with the
we
Myers
got-
Park grant? Everything, did that change some of this component in here of the master plan?
It just means we didn't pay for it now.
Pardon me?
It means we're not buying it now. We're still online to make some of these improvements, but we're not going to be able to do them all right now because we don't have the money for it right now.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it like 6 areas that they were looking at for the master plan? Am I thinking of the wrong master plan? We got a lot of master plans here. Wasn't there one that had Myers Park, they had ball fields, they had...
Yeah, that was in.
Yeah, that's in it.
Right. So to my point is that eventually this will have to be updated because once since we said tonight we're not interested in the Myers Park, we'll have to pull that out maybe for now. or?
No.
No.
No, we're just not taking that money for it now.
Gotcha.
It's still the master plan. We're still
It's
gonna
still part of the
move
master
towards
plan.
it. We're still gonna try and do it. It's
That's-
just,
Okay.
Ed, think of this as a addendum to our comprehensive plan, because that's realistically what it is. And so these are the directions we will go. We won't necessarily do all of them before we do another master plan for the parks.
So if you use it as the comprehensive plan, we all know it's a guide, right? It's a concept. It is not law, right? It is not a resolution, and it's subject to change, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else, Ruth?
Well, yeah, I did want to talk, I mean, we've had a lot of conversations on,
you pass this.
we've had a lot of conversations on Jonas Falls, and we're going through a lot of iterations, a lot of considerations, based on basically a lot of the same things that Guy was talking about earlier, and feasibility of some of these issues. And I've been talking to Ramona about it and Jack, so the neighbors are being involved. We have not come to any conclusion so far because it is a difficult situation with the slope there, the erosion and everything else. So it's still in the conversation, but there's a lot more work to be done on it. That's all I can say. But we did want to include, on page 73, it does mention that we want to have connectors from our main trail to areas like Jonas Falls, is specifically mentioned in the master plan already. So, I think, did I cover everything, Patrick? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Patrick.
All right, so that's my report.
Joe?
I put my report in writing, and I think I got in early enough this time.
It was a little late, Joe, but I slipped it in.
I appreciate that, thank you. I do want to think a little bit about what's happening with the Cargill salt mine, because I am concerned about it going up for sale. And I don't know if there's much the town can do about that. But I think we ought to be keeping it on our radar, because a new owner can severely affect our community depending on how they choose to run that mine.
I absolutely agree.
The question I have is what leverage, influence does the town have? Right? We can share our concerns. Right?
I have the same question you have.
We share our concerns, it's like you and I are talking about another situation where we can share, we're talking about solar. As we represent, we share our concerns. But how much leverage, I wouldn't say leverage, how much conversation can the town have where you negotiate as opposed to, here it is, have a nice day or not, right? And I think it's not a bad idea to at least, what I'm saying, investigate what the options are. If there's any tools in the toolbox. Or it may be the fact that here it is and that's the way it is. I don't know. And I'm not, once again, I just want to see what's best for the town, but also what, like I said, what tools we have in our toolbox to see if we can have some dialogue there and some consideration. You know? I mean, we had very little consideration with the DOT. I'm not throwing stones at them, I'm just giving facts. We had no consideration when the school wants to do an addition. That doesn't go through the code office. And I'm not throwing stones at that, I'm simply saying that's the reality. So, all these things are noble ideas, but I think, I don't want to mislead people either by saying, we can do this when you maybe could or can't, but I think we also should do, cautiously explore it in advance. So it's not a bad idea, in my opinion. But I don't want to get people's hopes up either when we don't have the facts and say, we can do this when sometimes you can't. But anyways, that's where the...
Well, my question to you is, do you have any ideas of where we should explore or what we could do? Because I see a major change in our community coming, and if we have any leverage, I would like to use it, but I don't see any leverage at the moment.
I don't know if this is, once again, is this under the auspice of DEC? And is this under the auspice of Albany? Is this under the auspice of, and I'm open those questions up to anybody who has any information and maybe more research on it to see, okay, when you do it, you know, by the way, this is just a rumor now.
No, it's a fairly established rumor.
I understand that, but it's still a rumor,
Mhm.
and, but it doesn't mean we still can't be prepared. But the research I've done is still a rumor, but, we'll see where all this goes. But who's the governing bodies behind it?
I think-
don't know.
I think there could be many. I think the feds could come in if there's consideration of this being a monopoly or restraint of trade. The feds could step in and say yes or no to things too, depending on who the buyer is.
True.
So
Okay.
we don't know who's going to be able to have a say on this at this point, which makes it even harder.
Well, I think we all need to inquire. Anything else, Joe?
Nope, that's it for me now.
Sorry, Brown, I didn't jump over you on purpose.
That's all right. There was no ZBA meeting, and the broadband committee met with the lawyer to review the contract, so not much to report yet.
So,
So that's all?
so the broadband committee which one's this? Is this Spectrum?
Yeah, oh, is it Spectrum now or is it called something else?
Yes, it's called Spectrum here.
Okay.
But they have another name.
Yeah.
Charter.
Charter,
Yeah.
Charter, that's.
Yes, and that's what the lawyer keeps calling it, because that's.
Yeah,
what he's
that's
looking
why I
for.
was
Yes,
like-
right,
So-
yeah, but yes is the answer.
So refresh my memory that the charge of one of the charges of the broadband committee was to redo the contract.
Mhm.
That's what this is about.
Yep,
Yes.
exactly.
Now, also the fact is that we're doing the broadband for the low-hanging fruit, right? It's what a lot of these contracts go for. So everybody has broadband, right? Isn't that what the hope is? Everyone has broadband?
That's the goal, yeah.
On a good day, I can hit it with a rock where it is, and I can't get it, because I don't have enough density where I am, and I get the reasoning why. And there have been other municipalities where the final mile wasn't final.
But let me put it this way, Ed. I would like to be able to talk about this more, but not in open session, because some of this is negotiation with one place, some of it's negotiation with another, and so there's
Well, why
more.
don't we talk privately?
Okay,
Thank you, Brevin.
Yep, that's all I've got.
Okay. But you're making progress.
Yep.
Excellent.
I mean,
Okay,
I'm just.
excellent. All right,
sharing
supervisor.
already.
Gentlemen, I'm glad you're here. So, guide me on this if I miss any steps on this. I think it's appropriate that the town board charge the Water and Sewer Advisory Board to look into the sewer district and everything. That was our charge. And like I said, Guy, correct me if I'm wrong, we understand you're going back to the original agreement?
We hope to.
That is a recommendation of us that you do.
Well, if we could go back to the original agreement, we could get the right of way from the one party that we couldn't get one from initially, except at great cost. It would speed things along, and we wouldn't actually have to make any changes to the existing sewer district's boundaries or constituent members or anything. And we think we've got to deal with them, although the price is still up in the air. We met with her in person, and the price has gone up substantially since then, but it's still less than it was initially.
So that is a recommendation for the Water and Sewer Advisory Board to the town board to eventually reach out to you. Am I get my ducks in the wrong row here, or what?
No, you're correct. The advisory determination from the Water and Sewer Advisory Board wasn't delivered to the town board yet because it wasn't in time for this agenda.
To be continued, but if you went back to the original agreement, you wouldn't need any advice from the Water and Sewer Board or the town board, and you can get going on it. I believe that's correct.
Correct. I mean, they still have to make sure, as they are already doing, that the updates to the easements, which I've reviewed and approved and recommended that we just give a head nod to, are sufficient so that they can go ahead and get them signed, so that when they do put infrastructure in the ground, we will accept the dedication. The landowner's attorney has made a couple of modifications. I've reviewed those. There was a minor modification today about the height of any manholes, which was eminently reasonable. Try to keep them as level with the ground as is possible. You don't want them lower than the ground because then you get I&I. You don't want them higher than the ground because then people trip over them and they destroy blades. But I think that's a reasonable thing to request, that you maintain them in a way that doesn't cause damage. So I think they're ready to go. I just got it it was delivered to me while I was in Danby, so I haven't read the final adjustment. The purpose of it makes
I'm
sense.
sorry to put you on the spot, guys, I try
It's
not
okay.
to do that, but this is what the Water Supervisory Board, and it will be official to the town board to read about it, that you do the original plan. And then the town board can decide if that's a good idea for you guys to do the original plan and next month or not.
Well, we're hoping that we can go ahead with the original plan.
Well, I don't think the town would decide that the original plan's a good idea. It already exists.
Exactly.
The town would potentially in the future decide if it agrees with the Water and Sewer Advisory Board about potential future connections in the village at other points within this district. Right? So in order to do a district improvement, you must first have a district infrastructure. So we'd have to have at least the initial trunk line built before we could start doing 202A or 202B improvements.
Our plan would be to get the 2 easements we need to get the line into the town and onto our property. And then once that's done, we would be able to dedicate that line leading into the town to the town. And at that point, we'd have a functioning sewer district.
Correct. Right, you'd have something to connect a lateral to, subject to getting your Department of Health approval and town permit.
And then we'll try to do something there so we can use some of that capacity. So that'll be our next step. To take advantage of all the time and effort that's gone into this over the years and money, and see if we can do something that takes advantage of that and doesn't require us to continue putting septics into, 9.5 inches of topsoil.
So on that note, I'm not gonna go into any other discussions here because there's so many different negotiations going on different parties, on different things. We move to the work session about the formation of Drainage District Number 11, and Dave Harris has put that in your packet. And I think that also involves the Youngs. Another reason why I'm glad you're here. So, let's discuss it. So this is the formation of Drainage District Number 11. And have the Youngs read this to see what Dave Harris' report says?
Yes, we have. It looks like it'd be fine with us if we agree with everything.
And just the original concept of going to a drainage district at this location was referred by this board to the Water and Sewer Advisory Board because it is the entity that deals with special districts. The Water and Sewer Advisory Board took a lot of input, developed maps based on the subdivision platting on what this district boundary would look like. That was shared many moons ago. The developers agreed with that line out, that delineation, so the town went forward with the map plan and report. It went from here's the subdivision, here's the map, here's the plan, what are the engineering feasibilities, what's involved. That's what the map plan and report does. Takes the concept, plugs it into an actual, administratable, for lack of a better term, special district. It, projects out what the costs are gonna be for, first year's maintenance. Water's a dynamic force, right? It doesn't stay in one place. And as land is developed, there are changes. So one of the things that a map plan report tries to take into account is how would the benefit calculations change as additional houses get built, or if a pond forebay had to be mucked out more often than necessary. So the costs that are reflected in this thing are, generally speaking, very conservative, and that is, it's a worst case scenario estimate. We have very few drainage districts that actually generate that kind of first year cost. But when it comes budget time, the town will need to pick a number based on what Mike reports and what, Donnie and Dave think is appropriate for stormwater to start building up a nest egg, so that if there is ever major capital improvement, you've got the funds at hand and don't have your taxes going like this in your drainage districts.
It almost sounds like, in many ways, PDA for drainage.
Well, it's no different than how you manage a water district and account for how you build its infrastructure and do maintenance or sewer. It's just,
What comes to mind of another area where they have 30 stormwater ponds. And that's one reason one year, everything was fine except we had to raise it because we had to, Mikey had to drain them, or maintain them, dig them out, and it went above the tax cap. And here's the person, you got 30 stormwater ponds, would you rather have a drainage district? I mean, it's, and sometimes, and everybody's, it's your money, but just like it was that person's money, and then we'll see where it goes. But I've seen it different ways, and you pay now, or you pay later, but you're gonna pay. And in fact, you got this already there. I think especially it would be extremely helpful down the road. This is just one person's opinion. You're gonna say something, John?
I was just going to ask, is this the district that was a private association type thing, and we're now turning it into a town district?
this is the district that had a blanket stormwater easement in which a particular individual opined that the town would sue the owner of Lot 4 for a violation on Lot 1.
Right, and so we're turning this into a district so that we don't have those issues anymore, among other things.
Yes and no, but it's also being turned into a district because that is the town's preferred form of stormwater management, particularly once this became a major subdivision as opposed to a minor.
Okay.
So it was really the planning board that listed that as a condition.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this is a district, basically, that two individuals have, right? The Youngs?
Well, there's more.
No, there's
owners
more,
in it.
there's an owner's list here.
Which is fine.
6 owners.
Okay, so it's very similar to a water district, sewer district, because it has to go through the whole process of the map plan report and the public hearings and the whole bit. So I guess we'll follow the same, similar scenario as we would for the formation of those.
Right, if everyone's happy with this map plan and report and you want to move forward, then next month you can have, we can have the public interest order ready and do the order of approval and public hearing in October. You can be done before the end of the year if you decided this is sufficient, you're willing to move forward now.
So protocol-wise, we could, if the board is comfortable, set the public hearing next month for.
No, you can't because you have to have the public interest order to publish in order to set the public hearing.
Okay, so,
Is this one of those that the property owners can vote it down if they don't like it? But
Correct.
since one property owner owns more than 50% of it, it's really up to him?
Well,
Yes.
yes.
I'm asking.
Right, yes, but no, it's not based on the number, it's based on property ownership. But who is an owner is not necessarily a clear issue. So if you have one person that owns 20 out of 22 lots, they get one vote.
Okay,
If you have two people that own the remaining lot, they can trump that vote, even though they only have theoretically less than 5% of the space. So it's a very squirrely, outdated system going back to literally 1939 that is crying for an update, but as of right now, yes, a permissive referendum can be demanded with an appropriate petition.
okay. Your neighbors are all keen with this?
we'll find out.
Well, I'm not,
We'll find out, I mean.
It all started because 2 of the neighbors are in favor of it.
well, it sounds like it's not just individuals, but it's everybody on the deed needs to be in favor of it.
There are 7 people on deeds, and one of them are clearly in favor of it, we don't know about that last person.
Okay, I just don't want to do a lot of work and have somebody vote it
It's
down.
not going to be voted down.
Okay.
Well, what about for a permissive referendum, what's the threshold? Is it 5%?
I'd have to look it up, but it's not that high a threshold. I think it's 20% of the property owners, but the one property owner that you're talking about that will remain nameless, I happen to be aware that he or she is in favor of it. But again, what people say when they're talking and what people say and do in the privacy of a voting booth, not easy thing to predict. But Whether or not the landowners wish to vote it down or not vote it down, at this point, we clearly have the 75% threshold that the town looks for to feel it's safe enough to go forward and not be taking a risk with other people's money.
And way back when, the Water and Sewer Advisory Board, I believe, came up with this great idea is that when you initiate this, you have 75% at least say we want it in case there is a vote, because all the taxpayers are paying for this right now. If it gets voted down, they all pay for it. If it goes through, you'll reimburse the town for any expenses on that. That's why they want the 75%, so it will hopefully get past the 51% that'll pass it. And anyways.
Actually, not to take credit, but the actual 75% rule dates back to Bud Shattuck and Steve Farkas.
I thought it was a brilliant idea, and it has survived. So I guess
You remember those names.
the board's comfortable so far. So, guys, the next order of business for us to move forward. to
Well,
the
I
next
would
step.
prepare for the September meeting, the public interest order, which would set the public hearing for October and lay all of this out with your required comptroller's designations and statements. And then after the public hearing, you would adopt the conditional order, and after the referendum period runs, the final order, and you're done.
Let's do that.
There you are. Do you need any more guidance from the board?
No, if you're willing to, if you guys want, say, move forward, have that ready for the September meeting, which, by the way, I won't be at, I'll have it ready for the September meeting. Dave Herrick said he can cover in case you have Q&A on the district.
Are we okay? We okay? You okay? All right. I think that's all for tonight. As far as the youngs go.
If you don't mind, a simple question is, the district potentially will be created in 2 months from now, or is that right?
Well, what happens is that eventually you have the public interest order. It's been a while since we did water districts or districts, okay, and eventually it'll come to the map plan report, it'll come to the fill in the blanks guy when I'm ready. And then it'll come to a vote, but then there's a 30-day permissive referendum on after that where you give them time for the residents to either challenge it or not. So it may be, as Guy says, if everything in a perfect world, and maybe by the end of the year, you have 2 or 3 people want to contest it, you'll go to an election, God forbid.
Right, but there is authority that's been recognized by the courts and comptroller, and that is, if everyone who can request a referendum or vote at a referendum signs a petition saying, we don't want to vote, please form it now, then you can. If there's no crisis and no hurry, I would say just stick with the rules, but you can accelerate if you ever had need. Realistically, if on the current timeline, the district would be formed probably at your November meeting.
Thank you.
Knock on wood. Okay?
Keep your neighbors happy.
Yeah. Any other questions? We all good?
Thanks very much.
No, it isn't. Okay. Any need for executive session? Come on. Anybody?
I thought, wasn't there something somebody?
Come
was
on,
saying
somebody.
in
How about
executive
closed session?
Would you have the pool for 9:30?
It's now 45 minutes, but I tell you, it's less than 2 hours, if that's the case. Anybody want, whoa, what happened? What happened? Anybody want to move to adjourn?
I will move to adjourn.
I'll second. There you go. Okay, all in favor? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so,
Jesus, she's not being here.
okay, so Joe moved it, and was it Ruth? I didn't really hear.
Ruth.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed to that?
This concludes our